Record. Oh my goodness. Well, hi there, Kris.
Hello, Jenny. How are you?
I am so good. You are so kind to get. Look at this dog. Seriously, dude. Let's
That's a
put him down.
that is a cute little doggy.
He is a cute doggy. Hey, you just helped me run a marathon.
Uh, yeah, that was like what 5 days ago now. 5 days elapsed since.
I can walk now.
Yeah, that's always good. So where did you feel it the most?
Well, in my knee, but we'll go there in a minute. I want to introduce you.
Okay.
So I'm Jenny. Thanks, you guys, for watching. And I'm with the Wolek Group, Keller Williams Realty in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I am so honored to share with you my amazing running coach. And you have so many other titles and leadership that you live in your life. Kris Vogt, you and I met
Yep.
almost exactly a year ago.
Yep. I think we were November 13th.
I looked it up.
Yep, I did too.
So why don't you share with everyone where you came from and how you got into that classroom about a year ago and what started all this?
Yeah. So let's see here. Well, I'll give you obviously the quick version of a long story, right? So this month, actually, I'll celebrate my 29th year in residential real estate. I was a 25-year-old kid. One thing led to another. Did pretty well. They asked me to be in leadership as a youngster. Managed a branch. Became a regional guy for about 6 years after 13 years of running a branch. That was our old world vernacular.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally was in another organization, including mergers and acquisitions, for 22 years. My son Kyle and my wife Kelly are both in the business as well. And as I began to think in late 2017 about where we wanted to put our son in the next 25 years in his business, and I just said this up in career visioning today, we didn't want to put him in a place where there was sort of like a dead end where you'd learn how to do more transactions, but just enough to screw your life up. So we made a very bold move to move on March 1st of 2018 to Keller Williams in the Elk Grove Market Center. And our awesome OP, Patrick Woods, who's in it to win it and investing in great speakers and coaches and consultants coming out in our market center. And last, I don't know, October, we started promoting this lady by the name of Jenny Wolek. She was going to come out and talk to us. Yeah, so you came out that day, and we're just somebody that was a huge part of our journey at that point. And I won the lottery that day because I won this little contest. We were raising money, thank you, for the fires out here in Paradise. And got to go to lunch with you and Patrick, and I guess the rest is a little bit history. So there's the real quick version.
Okay, I love your version of that story, and I totally agree. We got to give props to our buddy and friend Patrick Woods.
Yep.
As I was flying home from New York City less than a week ago, I had this aha, and it just came in my brain, and I made a post about it, and it was that all of my success is because I showed up.
Yeah.
And where that was really coming from was like me running this marathon that we'll get into all the details for everyone. And it was because I had met Patrick Woods through showing up and attending events that cost lots of money. Yep. And creating and having that friendship that then last year he invited me out to share and pour into his agents. And so just there are no coincidences.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
In life at all. So your story, I'll add a couple little pieces to your story because as I'm teaching that class, you were on the front row and a very good student, which I'm the nerd always on the front row. So I appreciate that. And you won the contest to the heads or tails. And I have pictures, actually. I'll use them as live now.
Yeah.
Of you and Lori getting down to the end.
Yeah, Lori, that's right.
it's not a coincidence that you guys are also top producers, because what were you doing? You were betting money to go toward a good cause, your neighbors in California that were suffering from fires.
Yeah.
And I'm that same person. I donate the money, not because I necessarily want to win, because I know it's for a good cause, but also you were padding your chances so that you would win.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And part of that too was because, I mean, and this is true today, when we were talking about this in Career Vision, about really knowing, being a student of Keller Williams, because in my time here, which hasn't been that long, it's only been 20 months, I think, plus or minus.
Yeah.
Because so much of what the company stands for and has been about since really day one is so meaningful to me. Anytime I had an opportunity to get around wisdom, and that's what I was doing that day. I want, the old success leaves clues. And I was very intrigued by your own journey, about how you were sort of, I'm sure the same person, but you were, doing your thing. And then one day you decided, okay, I'm going to now be awesome and work the models and systems and the education, and off you've gone. So I admire you for that. And so that's why I was so intrigued by you and your success, because it wasn't just some haphazard thing. You put intentionality and design around it. And that was part of the reason when I looked at you in the hall that day and I said, hey, did anybody ever tell you you're a marathoner?
Wait, you have to wait on that.
Okay, I will.
Because that's the kicker of where we go to lunch, and the whole reason that you won the contest was for me to coach you.
Yeah.
In real estate.
Yeah.
So we go, me, Patrick, you, Lauren, go to lunch, and I ask you some questions, and I quickly discover you don't need any coaching.
Well, yeah, yes, I do. And thank you. And yes, I do.
Okay. The questions I asked led me to understand that, because I always start with, and you probably agree, and I know Gary Keller does too, because we always have to start with our big why, our passion, and our purpose. Yep. And that's what I find most real estate agents don't do, and then they burn out. And so that's what I was asking you was, what's your passion? And this is how it all started, by me asking that question. Yeah. So what was your answer to what's your passion?
Well, I believe, because we were BJs, and I said, I think I simply said this. I told you I wanted to write a book, by the way. I don't remember that. And you said, well, you need to write that. And I said, well, I truly, it is my goal when I wake up every morning to inspire and motivate individuals to take significant and sustained action for life improvement. Business being part of that as well, right? And so I just love, if I can be part of somebody's story and helping them succeed, maybe something beyond what they ever thought they could dream or imagine. That is very, very, very exciting to me. And I just, well, you know what, that is, so this year, I didn't realize they had the apple as the medal this year too.
You would have run, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think you're living that mission, and you shared that with me. You shared how many, why don't you tell everyone how many marathons and all that stuff real quick, so they know you're valid.
Okay. Well, see, so so it depends on how you count. If you count the 2 marathons that I ran during my Ironmans, I've done 2 Ironmans. So I've done 34 marathons. And of that, I do have an 11-year Boston Marathon streak is a big part of that. So yeah, it's been, I started this running thing not to run to be fast or really accomplish anything other than improving my life and others around me. And one thing led to another. And I found this thing out in my mid 40s that I had this gift, apparently, that I have some endurance, and I also had some speed. So I've run marathons, and I've run some pretty darn fast as well. So, and that's also given me the great pleasure to help coach people both inside and outside of my family. So I've had the good fortune to run with 5 of my immediate family members actually in the Boston Marathon. So and this all started at age 41, and it's just been absolutely remarkable.
Well, you also asked me some questions. So I'm coaching you, and then all of a sudden, you being a great coach and a great leader start turning the questions on me. and you started asking me questions because you shared your passion. And you also then got very specific and you said, how old are you? Were
Yeah.
you ever an athlete? You started qualifying me. And then all of a sudden, where did that lead us to?
Well, it led us to, I believe, that question. As I believe, because I don't say this to everybody I meet. I say it to a handful. I actually said it to a young lady this last couple of days. I said,
Watch out.
has anyone ever told you you're a marathoner?
Yeah.
And obviously hadn't, and I'm not a prophet necessarily, but I think part of it is, I mean, look, I mean, you now know because you've run that distance and you prepared for it. So it's, as I like to say to people, it's not about the running, right? I do believe that so many people have quote unquote marathoner in them, and there is a type, a mindset type, competitiveness, a desire, a willingness to persevere, in spite of the mental and,
Yeah.
as you know now, the physical pain.
Yeah, there is a lot of physical pain. And so it's a year. So someone really truly could set a goal to run a marathon within a year. It can be done.
Well, my personal story, I was, and I can tell you, I'm kind of funny for dates anyhow, Jenny, but on August 6th, 2007, I tipped the scales that morning at about 215 pounds. And I literally asked for the good Lord himself to help me in this journey of just simply hydrating better, eating a little bit better, and beginning to be consistent in my exercise. That was August 6th of 2007. And for me personally, I was then at the start line of my very first marathon, January 13th of 2008. So certainly a year, yes.
That was a lot of time.
I mean, and you know this, right? The challenge for you in training for a marathon is the fact that, you're not sitting on the couch eating bonbons every day. You're driving a big business back there. You're pouring every bit of your being, it appears to me, into others around you as well. And you're teaching and coaching and everything that you do. So you had every reason, quote unquote, again, to say, well, yeah, kind of a good idea. However, I'm just too busy. So.
Well, so in the hallway, you say to me, I see a marathoner in you.
Yep.
Next thing I know, I have this book. It's right over here.
Yep.
And what's that book that you share with everyone?
Advanced Marathoning. I've never met Pete Fitzinger, but it's authored by Pete Fitzinger. And as I share with people, when I began to coach myself early on and ultimately others, while I do use some anecdotes, I coach around principles. I don't go around anecdotes. I go around empirical evidence. And so I think when I sent that to you, I said to you, that is the MREA of marathon running.
That's why I didn't get all the way through it.
Yeah, I remember early on, you just kept saying, just tell me what to do.
Just tell me what to do. I'm very coachable. Just tell me what to do. And that ended up being the path that we took. And you also had me watch an older documentary. I love that. I watched it with Nia. What's that called? I forgot.
Spirit of the Marathon.
Yeah, that was a great mindset around it, for sure.
Because most people, when they watch that, because there was a different body type, there was a different psychology of every single one of those participants in that, and so that's what really drew me and stirred me, is the fact that you had people of all ages, genders, physical abilities in the same event, right? And that's the same thing you did. It was, you had people in all makes and models that you saw that day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so we met. I started realizing this was a thing. You and I had some calls, and you very quick. I've been in coaching for so long. I knew the questions you were asking and where we were going. I was just following along the path with you. I knew what you were doing.
That is kind of weird, by the way, because when it's kind of like, Patrick Woods was talking today up at CV, and his tell me more, right? I mean, it's like, Patrick, don't say that to me. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. And then we still fall for it.
Yeah, no, it's true, right?
And so you got me to a point. You basically said, okay, well, if you were to run, when you run, well, you said when you run, do you like crowds or to be quiet? I was like, well, I've never run, so I don't know what I like.
Yeah.
And I would guess that it'd be people. And then next thing you know, that we've set it for November 3rd, New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
So when that was in November 3rd, when did I really need to have my game plan set? And you really started getting on to me about really running.
Well, so in all frankness, there was a time in probably the Q1 when I kept looking at your numbers going, holy crud, this is this is going to be so look, I mean, ideally, and you and I talked about this, right? So ideally, right, if somebody were watching this today and said, hey, I want to run a half or a full or whatever, forget the distance for a second. I want to improve where I'm at. You know, ideally for a marathon, you have an 18, so you've built a really nice base of running volume, and then you have 16 to 18 weeks of structured training where you're running 4 to 7 days a week, depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, right? So the build up to that, based on everyone's current fitness level, right, is a big part of that, right? So for myself, although I did, as it turned out, I did achieve pretty quickly, I knew for me, the thing that I needed to work on first was my overall core strength, and then actually then begin to improve my power to weight ratio, i.e. start dropping a few pounds, right? So it's slightly different for everyone based on where they're at in their you know, what your current, you know, haven't, you know, I'm you know, for me, I was really probably 45, 50 pounds overweight.
Right.
And so I started with really diet and exercise, and then there was no intention, by the way, in my story of actually running. There's a whole nother segment of that where I was hanging out with a buddy at church who started to encourage me to run, but I was like, I hate running. So that soon changed. So the stronger I got, the lighter I got, the easier it became.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd agree that it is just a personal and individual thing, because the reason that our conversation even happened was that I was already working through the 7 circles in the One Thing book. And in the physical health category, every year I set goals and I just say, I want to exercise. I want to eat healthy. And I never was pushing myself.
Yeah.
And so when I already knew that I wanted to push myself is when you entered my world. And I think that was a push. So I was kind of slacking off in the early days. So let's just share some of the tools that we use, because Strava is a great app.
Yep.
I found that my Apple Watch worked and it was not super accurate in the tracking, I didn't think. So I upgraded to a Garmin.
Yep.
That definitely helped. And running 1 mile was really hard early on.
Yeah. Well, that's a very, and again, you're somebody who's, I mean, you entered in this, you were a consistent exerciser going into this, right? So, and to be frank, partly what I thought was you were going to like go slowly, and then whoom. That's what I actually believe that was it. So my calculation was a little off there. And though it was pretty interesting how quickly though you went from 1 mile, 2 mile, and you sort of did that little bumping along there through, you know, March, April. And then we started, and if you look back, I don't know if you've printed any of that stuff out, but it's pretty remarkable how quickly you're, okay, now I'm running 4 miles, now I'm running 6 miles. And, you know, next thing you know, I'm 16 miles.
Yeah. I knew that I needed to step up my game because it's so crazy. I'm sure that people are watching that are in our world, and we have great mindset. We have goals. We set items to keep us on track.
Yep.
And it all existed for me. And I still kept getting in my head and allowing myself to stop.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, I'm a huge believer, and there's obviously lots of ways we can figure out more about ourselves in life. And training for and running a marathon does. It flushes a lot of stuff out in terms of on those days where we just don't feel like it. So when we talk about, you know, our big whys, to me, there's nothing that's really any more powerful than on that day when you're thinking about, well, you don't want to flash forward to the race yet, but I know we're going to get to that, right? But on any given day when you're just thinking, you know what, I'm just going to pack it up and go home, and I've done okay, or I've done fine, and I'll it's really balancing that, holding yourself to a high standard with an element of grace in it, to where you're not like pounding yourself over the head for not accomplishing whatever that was that day, and at the same time not giving yourself excuses. And I think that's the whole balance.
That's the balance. And if someone is interested in going this route or another, any kind of fitness or any kind of accountability, knowing you were watching me.
Yeah.
I knew that you could see my tracker, and that is painful and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we can beat ourselves up over that. So let's go a little faster. And I really never set out to run a marathon, at all. And then I did. And so mine was never about speed. Yeah. I ran by myself all the time. And I went through so many books and podcasts. I am so smart now with all the things I learned. And guess what? Day of the race, I didn't listen to one thing.
That's awesome.
You mentioned that in our call,
right? Yeah.
In our call right before, and I was really concerned that my phone battery would die. Like, these are tough times when you're running a marathon. You're really concerned if your phone runs out of juice because you're listening to a book or something. And you mentioned that I should take it all in, and I did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And how was that?
Amazing.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you talk to anybody along the way?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I think the one thing I want to add in before we get to even closer to the day was that it takes a lot of time. I did not. So the things that I learned was that I didn't know that running for that many miles in the later days required a full day of my time.
Yeah.
And so life needs to be able to be adjusted. So if anyone is ever interested in going this route, you just need to be prepared for this. The other thing I learned was that this time of year to train in Oklahoma, when it's 100 degrees and humid, that hinders your training. So guess what time I got up to run?
Yeah. What was the earliest you got up?
I think, 4:45 was typically my time to get out the door. And I'm also a mom who is the responsible person for getting the kiddo to school. Right. So I learned that you get really good at math and knowing your numbers.
Yep.
And then I got to a point where I know that, okay, it takes me 5 miles. I can go 5 miles in an hour.
Yep.
I'm not very fast. And I think you said 5 miles an hour or something at Mega Camp. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Well, so look, so that's, I got all these weird formulas in my head. So that's, well, the first thing I just tell everybody is that, slow is relative to fast, and fast is relative to slow.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and the same thing even on distance, right? Somebody that early on I was hanging out with, there was a marathon that I was in, and it was also a half marathon. And some of the half marathoners would respond, "Oh, are you running the full tomorrow?" And they would say, "Oh no, I'm only running the half." Right. And the coach that day said, "Don't say you're only running a half. You're running a half is what you're running." Because again, it's that I'm comparing this to that same thing in the pace thing. So on the pace, the only reason I like the pace is it tells me, and we can see that in your growth, right? How much faster you got, not just so you're faster, but you can see that your fitness has grown, which is really awesome, right? And then if somebody chooses that, hey, I want to win my age division, or I want to qualify for Boston, or whatever the case may be, then they can start plugging some different things in. So it's not about time. It's really not about distance. It's about really deciding what you want to do, formulating a plan around that, and then just going after it as best you can with what you have and the time allowed.
Yeah. Here's one other thing I want to point out. My mindset got so weird that on a weekday, I thought, oh, yay, I only need to run 5 miles
Yeah,
today.
yeah, right?
My husband would hear me saying these things. He's like, do you hear yourself in your growth?
Yeah,
Like, he had been a cross country runner in high school. He doesn't run anymore. He's got bad knees. And so he was super supportive in encouraging me and making sure I was getting
yeah,
up and going through it. So family support is key. I left and ran so many Saturdays, leaving the kid at home by
right,
herself. You
right.
know, it's a family affair for this. And in the end, my family went with me to New York City,
Yeah,
and that was cool. So we had a little bit of family fun time, and then I got to get serious.
yeah. Mia's how old now?
12.
12, right? So here's the thing, and I'm sure you've had some amazing conversation with her. And I was talking to Patrick Woods about this it turns out we're going to end up running Boston together in April. And he was asking me about his boys, whether they should go, not go. And I just, again, I don't think I'd share with him is, my kids were all, the first time I ran a marathon and then certainly Boston, my kids who were all in their, early mid-teens it was life changing for them. And if you were to talk to my son, business partner, Kyle, who's now 27 and a daddy, and he actually just completed his first marathon last December, he'll tell you that influence and that experience had impact on his life, beyond, again, just the running, in terms of belief about what's possible and all those fun things. So yeah, there's parts of that day that the gift of that day for you, Jenny, hasn't even fully developed. There'll be a time where, she's in college or whatever in life, and she'll look back at that day when her mommy just freaking kept going and crossed that finish line. And she'll remember that, and she'll persevere because of what you did that
Thank you.
day.
Um, so on the, we had a call before
Yep.
I left, and you gave me some great coaching tips and advice. So what all do you think? I mean, you gave me to the detail that I actually lived every bit of the details,
Yeah.
from the 30 ounces of water with 2 tabs in it to all
Yep.
my gels, taking them every
Yep.
30 minutes,
Yep.
eating a
So
bagel.
yeah. So
Oh,
again, yeah.
the best part, gaining 2 to 3 pounds,
Yes.
eating pasta and bagels was amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, so again, and we talked about it's a chemistry project, right? It
Yeah.
really is, right? So it's all about the glycogen we need to perform. It's all about keeping our hydration level with our salt level, because if you remember back from high school or college chemistry, right, when they do the light bulb thing, you could actually make a light bulb light if you had the proper solution. Well, our body works the same way. So yeah, so there's it's kind of like a really good open house plan. It's what
Oh,
you
get
right.
into it.
It's what you do ahead of time.
Yep.
It's what you do during, and then it's what you do post in your recovery, right? So again, that came from both anecdote and science, in that our based on your size and all that. Yes, there's a certain amount of and game day conditions. Our bodies work well a certain way, and they do very poorly another way, right? So if we don't have sugar in our system to burn and we aren't hydrated, it's going to be a challenge.
Well, your scientific
That's
method,
that's just the science. Yep.
yeah, it worked. I physically felt amazing.
Yeah.
That was never a problem. What ended up being a problem was about mile 14, 15. I need to look at the map to see which bridge that was. And it wasn't the bridge that was the problem. That's just how I remember where I was. And my knee,
You're at Queensboro Bridge.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
It hurt so bad at every step, really walking or running.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about a marathon, especially one like this, is everybody could track me. And I hear people were watching me.
Yeah.
And I knew they were watching me.
Yeah.
And there's people all around me. And this bridge is actually the one place pretty much where there aren't cheering fans
Yep.
along the way. And I had to stop and stretch and cuss and waddle. And, I started doing math and figuring if I walked the rest of the way, what that would look like.
Yep.
And then luckily, as soon as I got to the end, there was a medic tent. They gave me some ibuprofen or some aspirin. They gave me some rub down with biofreeze and massage. And I got to sit for a minute. And then I just said, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going. And then I ran. And then I got faster.
You did.
So how does that work?
Well, so it's funny. So you and I talked about this, and so I'm gonna back up for a second here, though, right? So again, ideally, if somebody were to say, "Hey, Kris, I want to run a marathon," and I do my evaluation, and I talk to them and the whole bit, right? And I say, "Okay, well, here's ideal. Let's get your base up. Let's then get you into an 18-week plan. Bingo, bango, you're good to go." Okay, that's sort of the perfect world.
Mm-hmm.
And to be really frank with you, even as you begin to increase your distances. So when you showed up last Sunday, you ran a marathon with not an incredible training base. So what you did is remarkable on a lot of levels, because not that a 20 miler is going to make or break you. So your distance kept going there. I mean, ideally, I have my athletes will run 2 to 3 20 milers in a ramp up for that, right?
Okay.
And so so the reality is, and I was looking back at your data, because you travel a lot too, right? And that was a hard part for me as a coach, right? I'm like, okay, well, how do I encourage her and tell her she's got to get these runs in, right? So that is it. Like I said, that's just it's remarkable. And so part of that, yes. And so we talked about a negative split. So starting slower, finishing faster. And I remember in our pregame call, you're like, yeah, but it hasn't worked out so much like that for me. And I believe if the data that I got is correct, your last mile was actually your fastest mile of the entire day.
Yeah, I was ready to be done.
So, I mean, that's really cool, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. And just for those watching, so the end is kind of anticlimactic. Your family's nowhere to be found.
Oh, yeah. And then
right?
New York, walk another 2 miles almost, right, to get out of there.
Right. And then you got to find your family. So luckily I saw the people taking pictures and I was like, I should do this. So I took my little picture with the medal, and that was about it. Finally found my family, got lots of hugs. They were, where do we go eat? What do you want to do? And I was like, I can barely walk. How about we go to the hotel room and get some pizza?
Yeah, well, I shared with you before we started. I shared, so Kelly and I've had 3 beautiful children, and we now have 3 beautiful grandbabies who are all 2 years and younger. And my most recent memory is being in a waiting room waiting for the girls to give birth to our grandbabies, and that feeling of, oh my gosh. And so I mean, I'm sitting there here at my home in Wilton, California, and I texting you, and I got your text about your knee. I called and left you a message. I sent you a video. I'm from 3,000 miles away. I'm thinking, okay, whatever I can do to try to help drag her along, I'm going to do it. And then you finished, and I knew that. And then I didn't know. Then it was kind of like this time, because I know how far you have to walk, and then you're going with your family. And my wife, Kelly, is saying, okay, how is she? How is she? I'm like, I don't know. I know she finished. That's all I know. And then when I saw your photo with your medal and your beautiful smile, Jenny, so, I mean, that was just to be able to see you smile was so worth it for me. It was awesome.
Well, you had left me a message and a video, and I did not get those popping up until later when I was laying on the bed after a bath and some pizza, and I play it, and I just start bawling. And I want to just thank you. I have a grateful heart for you. and I appreciate you, and you seeing that I have a marathoner in me inspired all this. And I appreciate you. I want others to know that they can too, or they can do whatever their thing is.
Yep.
It's all our minds and the way that our brains can convince our bodies.
That's right.
It's
when you look,
thing.
I mean, again, our market center is going through Bold right now, and it's amazing because I started my journey in this before I ever came to KW, and it's so amazing to me when I'm sitting there in Bold and looking at all the Bold laws, which I've memorized, by the way, and that word never, and just really removing that word, because it's, you may choose not to ever run a marathon. You may choose that. But just by anybody who's watching this, it doesn't mean you can't. I mean, every marathon nowadays even has the Paralympic aspect. I mean, it's crazy, right? So if somebody chooses not to, that's totally cool. I'm not trying to convert every human on earth to run a marathon. Some people think different, but I'm truly not. And if they choose to, as I tell people all the time, there's a heck of a lot more possible within us than we could, I mean, literally, than we could ever truly comprehend, imagine, or dream. So whether it's your real estate business, your running business, your family, if you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a brother or sister, there's how we are today, and there's then there's what we're capable of. So that's, to me, is what's exciting to me, is to watch the growth in people.
Well, you did an amazing job, and I want to virtual high five you.
Woo! Yeah.
Do you share any of your coaching or time with people that they could reach out to you if they needed anything? Or
yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal. It's funny. Again, I got this Keller thing come from contribution, right? So before I ever got to Keller, I just loved sitting down, thinking out loud with people about life and business and running and all sorts of other things. So yeah, if anybody were watching this, I did have a couple people reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. I just love having a discussion with them about where they're currently at in their journey, and then see what it could look like. Somebody might be watching this who's run multiple marathons and they're stuck at a certain time and they want to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I've helped a lot of people in that realm. There might be somebody who's maybe thinking after watching this, I never thought I could, and maybe I can. I love that, right? So I've literally I have a young lady right now that I'm coaching, who's working on qualifying for an Olympic B standard. So literally, I got it all across the board. So I would be honored to converse with anyone to see what, and then if somebody wants some formal help, yes, I can absolutely design something for them, and change their life and others around them. And for you, young lady, and again, I know you know this, and the same thing I said with Patrick Woods. So it's, there's the immediate impact on you, on your hubby and your daughter and all those people that are watching you, in everything that you do and achieve, right? So you are the proverbial pebble in the pond, and this is one more pebble in the pond, which is really cool.
I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, likewise.
I get to go pick up my daughter now. Share real quick what your phone number is, or the best way people can reach out.
Okay, 916-801-4002. And I also give a pretty reasonably, I'm not going to say it, I give an awesome talk on energy management, and I literally take the concept of an 18-week training plan, and I convert that to your real life in your business and your life. So I literally speak around that. So if there's ever an opportunity in your markets or anywhere else, I would be happy to do that.
That's awesome. Well, I love you.
Love you too. You're awesome. I appreciate it. And
you told me to do.
That's right. No, yes.
Hi.
Yep. So my oldest daughter, Kayla, when Kayla was training for her very first marathon, and I told her, I said, when you finish, and literally, so that's part of the coaching, making sure that you're head up, hands up, and you got a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
And you did a great job there.
I did it.
All
Thank
right.
you for everything, and I will talk to you really soon.
All right. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. See ya. Bye, guys.